Okay, I'm going to hope that the glare doesn't bother you too much because it has to be there in order for my face to be illuminated by the natural light, and if I take off my glasses, I become blind. But anyways, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lily, and this is the episode 4 of my knitting podcast. The welcome back is for the 16 people that watched episode 3. Also, aka episode 1, there's an entire complication that goes into that. But if you are back, welcome back. I appreciate you staying here so much. I didn't expect that, but if you're new here, I'm Lily and I am a 19-year-old university student. I am in my 3rd year and I've been knitting for quite a while. I started with scarves and stuff and stayed in that stage for a few years until I decided to get brave and creative, and now I've created quite a lot of garment pieces that I really enjoy wearing. And very recently I decided that I might start a podcast channel just to share my journey with you guys, because personally I enjoy podcast channels and I listen to them a lot, so hopefully at least one person out there really enjoys my content, hopefully. Anyways, let's get started. So I have one finished object. This is the tee number 1 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. I made this with one strand of Knitting for Olive Merino in the shade Pomegranate. This was a almost completed piece in the last episode, I think, and I finished it roughly a week ago and I have already blocked it and I worn it quite a bit. So I'm going to talk about the yarn first for a bit. It is a really popular and mainstream yarn. It is extremely common. I use it a lot, so I won't say too much. So the Knitting for Olive Merino is a 100% merino fingering weight yarn. It is 50 grams for 250 meters if I'm not mistaken. And the shade Pomegranate, as you can see here, is a really nice, bright, warm-toned red color, and I really love it. Even though I don't usually wear bright colors, this one is an exception. It's really cool. Anyways, I used around 4.1 balls, I'd say, and the yarn is not the recommended yarn, so I cannot quite tell you what the supposed quantity would be if you do the calculation by length. Me making a size medium would have required a bit more than that. The reason that I didn't use up all of it is because I did shorten the length of the t-shirt. It doesn't quite fit into the frame, but hopefully you can see that it is a horizontal rectangle. So after blocking, it stretches out sideways, like horizontally, so it became wider and slightly shorter, which is what I preferred, so I'm really happy with that. I'm then going to move on to the quantitative details of this pattern. As I have mentioned, I am making the size medium, which is supposed to have a body circumference of 108 centimeters. Now I just measured my piece and it actually comes out to be 104 centimeters after blocking, so I was not far off. Usually I do tend to make smaller objects than the pattern would suggest. I think that is because I have a much tighter gauge and I do swatch, I just don't really take my swatch results that seriously. Like if it ends up being 9.5 centimeters instead of 10, I'll just go whatever, it's fine, I can block it out. And usually it doesn't go my way, but this one actually turned out fine. The length of my work measured from the center back, so starting from here all the way down to the edge is, let me see, is 47 centimeters long, and the recommended length for this pattern is 54 centimeters for a size medium. So as you can see, I have shortened it quite a bit. I made it not really cropped at all, but like a regular length t-shirt, and I think the pattern recommended the finished object to be much more oversized. So do as you might, you're gonna need a 5th ball anyway for making a size medium. It's actually really upsetting because I was, I think, like 3 rounds away from finishing this entire thing before I run out of yarn on the 4th ball, and I had to break into a 5th ball. Luckily I did buy one, but it just made me feel, I don't know, I could have been luckier. But anyways, yeah, so if you're making a size medium and knitting it to the recommended length with this Knitting for Olive merino yarn, you will need 5 balls. That is my recommendation. And I'm going to talk about the pattern now. So as you can see, this is a pretty classic stockinette saddle shoulder construction t-shirt. So saddle shoulder just means you have a shoulder panel here that you knit first, and then the front and back panels are picked up from this shoulder panel. There's a hole here, and I don't know why. It is a pretty basic saddle shoulder construction, I'd say. There's nothing too special about it. The collar and the hems are stockinette folded over. The collar is actually supposed to be folded outwards. Like you pick up the stitches from the wrong side actually, and then you knit stockinette and then you fold it outwards, so the stockinette side, like the right side, is showing out, and then you bind off and then you actually sew it on. I will talk about why I didn't do that and opted for a regular folded in collar. But before I do that, the sleeves are also folded in. The difference being there is, oops, my phone fell. The difference being there is one round of purl stitches, if I can get it to focus, which I seemingly cannot. Come on. Okay, come on. Okay, I don't know how well I did on showing the purl stitches, but basically there's this one row of purl bumps that helps you fold. I do have one advice when it comes to this. So basically the pattern says knit X number of rows, do one row of purls, and knit the same quantity of rows before you knit the finishing edge with the starting edge of the hem. Now, this does work after blocking. However, I don't know if it's something that I did differently, but I feel like there's more fabric on the inside of the folded edge than on the outside. So there's more fabric on the inside after the purl bumps than out here, which makes it have the tendency to flare outwards and fold over like this. I think a very easy solution would be knit X number of rows on the outside for the hem, do the purl row, and then knit X minus 1 number of rows on the inside. That means you artificially shorten the quantity of fabric here, so it might naturally fold in a bit more and doesn't have the tendency of flaring out. I have actually experimented with that on the body hem right here. Instead of knitting the same quantity of rows on either side of the purl bump, I knit one less on the inside, and it does stay much more flat than the shoulder ones despite being a larger circumference. So that works. I would definitely recommend you guys to also do that on similar constructed garments. And moving back in to why I didn't do the almost like pattern feature outward folding collar. The collar is supposed to be sewn down with a singular strand of lace weight yarn, and it was achievable with the recommended yarn combination because the recommended combination is one fringing held with one lace weight. Usually that means one merino held with one mohair. For a summer t-shirt, I think that is extremely unideal, and I could have swapped the mohair for a cashmere lace, I guess, but my local yarn store didn't have any cashmere, and also cashmere is kind of expensive, and I actually wanted a lighter and more airy fabric, so I just took away the lace weight strand and knitted this entire thing with a singular strand of merino. Now, as you can see, the fabric does drape really nicely. It is really light. It's not see-through. I can hold it up and you still cannot quite see what is behind it. When you wear it, it is completely opaque. There's zero transparency to it, which I was kind of worried about, but once I finished knitting actually just the shoulder panels, I was like, okay, it's going to work. It looks fine. And I really enjoy the finished fabric. However, that does mean I don't have the strand of lace weight yarn to sew the collar down. And I think if I use, I thought if I use the Merino, like the fingering weight strand to do the sewing, it might be a bit too bulky and untidy, so I decided to just skip it overall and do a classic inward folding collar that I know how to do and I've done many times. And I think that is not a incorrect decision. I really like how it looks. Now I think I could have gotten away with sewing it down with the fingering weight strand, but it's too late now and I am not about to go in and fix something that works perfectly fine. So there's that. I have already talked about this quite a bit on the previous podcast, and I have, I think, talked about this quite a bit already just now. So I am going to put this aside and we can move on to my works in progress. Now, I am home in my parents' house and I am not in my own apartment anymore. When I went back home, I didn't take most of my work with me. I took the previously a whip tee number 1, and I also took my socks, or rather my sock. It is less than 1 sock. It is this gradient yarn vanilla stockinette sock, and I have not touched it at all, so I'm going to just put this away. But otherwise, I didn't take any whips home, so you will have never seen the ones that I'm about to show you just now. The first one is this Camisole number 9 by My Favorite Things Knitwear again. This will be a pretty classic tank top construction. I am kind of done with the yoke, and this is basically how far one ball has gotten me. The ball I'm talking about is actually Knitting for Olive again. It is the No Waste Wool. Let me grab it. I have it right here. It is the No Waste Wool by Knitting for Olive. This is a 50% recycled wool and 50% extra fine traceable non-molest merino. And oops, I shook my camera. Anyways, and I am knitting a summer camisole with a 100% wool yarn, I am aware. I also just showed you a t-shirt that is in a 100% wool yarn. I don't live in a particularly hot place. I am in Boston right now. When school starts, I will be back in Montreal. Both places are not known to be super hot, so hopefully I will get away with a woolly summer knit. And also because the camisole number 9 is supposed to have a negative ease, I want something that is more elastic, and even if I do stretch it out quite a bit during the wear process, I can always block it back. And I think the only thing that can fully achieve this is actually, I kicked my camera again. I think the only thing that can fully achieve this is just 100% wool yarns. Maybe not 100%, but like predominantly wool yarns. And I am aware that it will be much more cool and much more comfortable to wear something that is maybe silk or cotton in the summer, but I don't want something that's baggy and unfixable. Anyways, before I talk more about the pattern, I'm going to talk a bit more about the yarn because I think this is less well known than the pattern. So Knitting for Olive is once again really well known. The no waste wool though, I don't see much people using it, and I kind of don't quite see why, because it is a really cool concept. It is, I think, priced the same as the regular merino, and the color selection is much narrower, but they also do have all the pretty colors in my opinion. So I feel like people should use this a bit more. It does feel a tiny bit more rustic than the regular merino, but not by much, and I still find it really soft and non-scratchy. So enough about the texture. The color is slate green, if I haven't mentioned it before. I don't know how to get my camera to focus. If I just place it closer to my face maybe. And yep, there we go, it's focused. slate green, and I bought 3 balls for this camisole number 9. And I guess that leads us back to talking about the pattern. It is a really dark green. I chose a dark color because for negative ease things, they stretch and the transparency increases. And I don't think I'll be wearing anything underneath this once it's done, so I guess a darker color is the way to go for me, and I really like this color. I just said I'm gonna talk about the pattern. This is not talking about pattern. But anyways, so the camisole number 9 is a pretty classic tank top construction camisole. You basically start off by knitting this very narrow part and then increasing for either the back or the front, and then you join it and then you knit down quite a bit until you're all the way at the underarm part with all the arm shaping and stuff. And then you go back and then you pick up stitches on the cast on edge and then you knit down and then you repeat the process. I think for this particular one, the camisole number 9, you actually make the front panels before you make the back panels, which is usually the other way around, but it really doesn't quite matter, I guess. Anyways, I have finished the yoke portion of this camisole, and this is exactly 1 ball. The reason I didn't make any more progress is because next up I want to use the new ball to pick up the neck and the sleeve like ribbing, but that requires 2mm needles and I don't have that with me. So I will either purchase a pair of 2mm circular needles, or I will wait until I go back to my own apartment and see my complete needle set again. I don't know. I'm not in quite a rush to finish this. I know that once I go back home and get my complete needle set, it will be the end of summer and I probably won't get much wear out of this. But I actually wear most of my camisoles as winter layering pieces as well. Sometimes I wear them just straight up under sweaters for the extra warmth that I really do need in the winters up north. So I'm not in a rush. I don't think there'll be much progress on this in the next episode or something. I might just join the ball in the body and then keep knitting because I feel like the body definitely needs at least 1 ball of work. So it doesn't bring me any extra ends, if that makes sense. It doesn't really, but let's pretend I didn't say that. But yeah, here we go. It does look very cute. I am making a size medium, if I haven't mentioned, which is supposed to be a circumference of 78 centimeters, and that is intended for people with 90 to 95 centimeters as their bust circumference, which does describe me. So hopefully this will fit. I feel like things with negative ease is sometimes more forgiving because it's meant to be stretched anyways. There's not much I really have to say about this one. I haven't tried it on because the straps have not been flattened out by the ribbing, and so far everything is working accordingly. There's nothing too exciting about it, even though the straps and all the shaping has made it really fun and really quick to knit, despite this being knit up on tiny needles. I think I am using a 2.75, which is either the suggested needle size or 1 size up. That's all I have to say about the camisole number 9, which is not a lot. Let's move on to another work in progress that's also a summer camisole, but much less substantial. This is the camisole number 4 by My Favorite Things Knitwear again. Oh my god. I really make a lot of her patterns, I just realized. I think I really like her style. Like, she doesn't make all stockinette patterns, but they all follow the same like classic and minimalistic way, which makes me... I shook my camera again. Anyways, which makes me like their oh, I completely lost track. Anyways, moving on to another summer camisole. This is the camisole number 4 by My Favorite Things Knitwear again. I really like her patterns. I just realized so far 3 out of 3 objects I've shared are from her. I think she deserves it. Like, she deserves all the popularity she has. I really enjoy most of the things that she has written and I have made, and I think she has that not like all stockinette simple, but very simple and minimal style that I enjoy wearing the finished objects for. But anyways, the camisole number 4 is a like triangular strapped camisole. I actually already made one before in the shade Dusty Artichoke, but this time I'm making one in Knitting for Olive Merino in the shade Midnight, which is a cool toned dark gray color. And I thought that this dark gray might be a bit more versatile than the Dusty Artichoke, which is a really pretty color, but it is much brighter than I imagined. Like, I can see why it's called Dusty Artichoke, but I did envision it to be a bit more dusty than that. I did buy the yarn online, so I couldn't have seen it in person myself before it got to my home, and it was mine and I had to use it. But I did like the color, even though it really wasn't what I expected, so now I have casted on a second one in this definitely much more neutral color. I casted on this one because I'm actually going to Europe very soon, and I'm really excited for it, and most definitely I would need to prepare something to occupy my hands and my head on the airplane and at the airports and all that. So I decided that the easiest thing to fit into a travel bag is a singular solid color summer top, which is what this will be. So I started it today, actually, just now. This is the left front, the start of it. It goes here. You cannot see it because my t-shirt is too dark, but it goes like here. And I don't think I'll work on it until I get to the airport and start my journey. So this will be sitting for a while, but I'm really excited to keep working on it. I enjoyed the process of knitting my first camisole number 4 really much because it has this broken rib pattern and it was not all over stockinette. It was more engaging than that. And also it knit up kind of quickly, which I do enjoy. And also I'm really excited for the finished object. I am actually making this more for the object than for the process, which is not the case for all of my works. I really just want the camisole number 4 in a dark gray, and this project will make me achieve that. So even though I don't have too much to say about it, based on how little I have, how repetitive my yarn and designer repertoire is, and all that, I am really excited about the prospect of finishing this and working on this and all that. And I guess before I rant on the same few words again and again, I'm going to move on to the last work in progress. This is a quick episode. I have 4 entire objects to show and it's only been like 20 minutes. That's pretty impressive. Anyway, this is the Stockholm V-neck Slipover by PetiteKnit. And I've been calling it the ENTP vest because if you guys have heard of MBTI, which is like a personality type thingy that may or may not have a scientific virtue, but definitely have its internet virtues. ENTP is one of the personality that's extroverted and I don't know how to describe it. It's really special. It's something, and one of my friends is that, and it's her birthday, not soon, but sometime in the future. Like, she will have a birthday in the future, and I plan on gifting this to her. I started this early because I was bored and I had nothing better to do, and I wanted something that is not on tiny summer clothing needles. So this is worked up on 4.5mm needles, and I am using so far 2.5 balls of this Patons worsted, classic wool worsted, and it is a 100g for 177 meters, worsted weight 100% wool yarn. It says 100% pure new wool, which is really cool. This is the shade Pansy. It is a cool toned bright purple. That is not something I will ever wear, but it has been a really nice color to look at and work with. This is not a particularly cheap yarn, I'd say. It's definitely not pricey either. Like compared to all the, I guess, brand name yarns, this is really affordable, but 100% wool has its values and has its worth, and the worth has been reflected in the price. So a ball this large has not been cheap for me. Maybe I got scammed, but I don't know. Anyways, so the Stockholm Slipover V-neck vest is a pretty classic stockinette V-neck vest. There's not much to say about it. There's no body shaping, unlike the Stockholm sweater, which is my current whip as well, that's away from me right now. Which is really interesting because I expected the Stockholm Slipover and the Stockholm sweater to only be different in how long the sleeve is. Because otherwise, why would you group them under the same name? I guess because they are similar in every single aspect other than the one that is specified to be different. That is my train of thought. That's my reasoning. My reasoning is wrong. The Stockholm sweater has body shaping and the Stockholm Slipover has none. But I guess it works out well for this individual garment. Like, I like the straight body. You cannot quite see the shape because my circular needles are much shorter than the body circumference. I did transfer some of the stitches onto a separate needle and tried it on, which I will insert a picture of. So as you can see, I am also basically almost done with this piece. I will probably knit on a few more rounds before I start working the rib, which is also meant to be like this long, I guess, which added together would make this vest the right length. Now I am concerned because I'm making a size large, and so far this doesn't look like a size large. So as you can see, the widest parts are this wide, which is roughly as wide as my T number 1 was when I showed you my finished object. Sorry for the clunking. Okay, it's even narrower actually. And a size large is supposed to be much larger than that. A size large is supposed to have a bust circumference of 105 centimeters. So I am mistaken on that. It should be much larger, but it should be larger than what it currently is. Right now when I try it on, it has very little positive ease, and my friend has a, well, not larger bust circumference, but like a much stronger preference for oversized garments, so I feel like this really won't fit her as well. Hopefully blocking will help. I did do this stitch swatch for this one, the gauge swatch, and I was mostly on gauge. I didn't even have to size up a needle size for it, I think. I think the recommended needle size is 4.5 millimeters, and my swatch is, for the specified number of stitches, I achieved 9.7 centimeters instead of 10, and I feel like that's truly a negligible difference. So hopefully this is just how this yarn behaves before blocking. And even if it's not, it will still fit onto my friend, even if it's not her preferred fit. So hopefully I am worrying for nothing. I think I am worrying for something. But so far it's turning out great. I love the simplicity of this, and I love how quickly it knits up. Oh yeah, the recommended yarn is once again fingering weight mohair held with lace weight merino. Sorry, I said it the wrong way around, didn't I? Fingering weight merino held with lace weight mohair, and I substituted that for a worsted weight yarn to not meet gauge, just to avoid mohair, because honestly I don't know who likes mohair. It's definitely not me. I don't know who can endure actually wearing mohair against your skin. If you can, then you must be a much physically stronger person than I am or something. But I have never met a person that actually finds mohair comfortable. That's my confession. What more is there to say about this? I guess not too much. I'm really excited about finishing this, even though the deadline is very, very far away, because it's just a funny concept that I am knitting an entire garment for not an internet meme, but like an internet phenomenon. It's a thought to be pondered upon. But either way, I have enjoyed knitting it. It worked up super fast as well, mostly based on the needle size that I used. And so far, I think regardless of the size, it does turn out to be a really decent vest, and I might actually consider making a different color for myself. But anyways, that was a really quick episode. That was only half an hour, and I am done talking about everything I have with me so far. I do have some more yarns, and I did also recently buy more yarn, and I do have distinct plans for all of them, but I am not a person to really talk about yarn acquisition and plans that I haven't started yet, so those you will see in the next episode. In between the two episodes, I do have to mention that since I am traveling to Europe, I'm going to Copenhagen and then Stockholm and then Amsterdam. I will be doing quite a bit of yarn shopping, so I will try to remember and film maybe travel logs and yarn shop videos and all that if you guys are interested. I will regardless actually, but I don't know, watch out for those that they might be coming sometime soon in the next 2 or 3 weeks along with the next episode, and since I have nothing more to say, I will see you then. Hopefully you enjoyed watching today's episode, and I will see you next time, as I just said. I say a lot of redundant stuff, but bye!